Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Mid-Tier Thoughts. Who are you? Bitch. What the? Ah! All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Mid-Tier Thoughts. So today we're going to be talking about what you just saw on screen. This thing is pretty rad. I've been playing with this for quite a bit. I've annoyed most of my friends and some of my coworkers with this thing already. So this is the NEXTORCH ND30. This thing is pretty rad. So you can see on here from the box and in person that this resembles a flashbang in appearance. That is kind of the idea. So what this thing is marketed as an illumination distraction device. So first off, let's get the disclosure out of the way in advance. I reached out to this company I was a big fan of some of their products, and I was wondering if maybe they wanted to send anything to the channel. So they did say that they would send this out, as well as I have another product of theirs to show you guys a little bit later. But this thing is pretty rad. So I did not pay for this. I will get that out of the way. That being said, if it sucked, I would tell you because I got it for free. And if they wanted it back, I would just give it back to them. But I like this thing. So I've been having quite a bit of fun with this. This thing's pretty cool. So this is a pretty hardy construction on here. I believe I'm going to look at the right numbers here. I believe the aluminum that it's made out of is like a 6160, something like that. It's got an 18650 battery in it, so you can charge this thing. It's a rechargeable battery that's charged off of a cell phone charger. I think it's a Type C. I have an Android phone, so it's the same kind I use. So this thing is marketed as an illumination distraction device. So basically kind of think of a reusable electronic flashbang. That's kind of how I've been saying it. So with this, it's supposed to replicate kind of in its size and appearance a flashbang grenade. It is designed for training and potentially purpose-built use. So the cool thing about this is how this is constructed is generally you have your ring right here that pulls out just like you would on a actual grenade. You have your spool right here, which also comes out just like an actual grenade. And then here you have a charging port right here for a cell phone. I know it's kind of hard to see. And these white spots are a bunch of LED lights that strobe. So you have a speaker here on the bottom. So altogether, this thing is pretty well made. It's pretty hardy construction. I think it's like a 6160 aluminum. This thing says it's drop safe from, I believe, 2 meters. But I've definitely been throwing this thing around my garage and on concrete and roads and stuff, like trying to break it. And I haven't busted it up yet. I really haven't chipped the paint that much. But it's pretty rad. So this thing comes with 4 different modes. And just so I go off the box, I'm not going to ruin my memory. I am going to show you what those modes look like here in a moment. We're going to suffer together as I blind myself. So mode 1, you have a 1-time strobe and sound. And then mode 2, a 2-time strobe, so it flashes twice in sound. Mode 3, which is my favorite, does it 9 times. And mode 4 is a 12-second continuous burst of light and sound. So how bright and how loud are we talking? Well, these lights altogether this is 11,000 lumens. As you saw in the intro video, right? I'm in my garage. It's lit the same way it is now. When I grabbed that thing, it made everything else dark, how bright these lights are. As far as how loud it is, it's 130 decibels. Most gunshots, I believe, are between 140 and 175 as kind of a frame of reference. So it's pretty loud. It kind of reminds me of like a super badass version of those like keychain alarms that you get in like self-defense kits, things like that, but like way cooler. So with this, my kind of thought process on this is something that would be a great training tool. You could potentially use this in an actual tactical situation as it is reusable. But I think for training, for practice, for airsoft dudes, for milsim, stuff like that, this thing is going to be pretty freaking cool. So because it's adjustable and you can choose how often or how often you want it to beep or how loud and things like that, because you can change the settings. I think that's the pretty cool feature of this as opposed to just a normal flashbang. I know you can get pyrotechnic stuff or CO2 things out there for like the milsim market, but the fact that this thing is reusable and you can program it to the way you want, I think is actually pretty cool. So in the box, you get the actual item itself, as well as you get a couple spools and extra backup rings. So the way that this thing works, and I'm going to turn this off so we don't blind ourselves immediately, is you can take the ring and use it as a tool. You can take this little piece here. There's a button in here that you push. It flashes. Get closer to the camera so you guys can see that. So you can see I take the button here, push it, it flashes. When it flashes, it can flash red. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it off so we don't blind ourselves while I show you this. I'm going to push in. Okay. So the way this works, pull the pin, spool comes off, and there you go. Right? Now, when it's like this, you just chuck it, and away you go, it goes off. You can set the time delay. Here, you have 4 modes. So you can see here, you have 4 modes. Mode 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can take your key, or your pin, rather, and you can just twist. And we're going to set it on to mode 2. Just like that. You can do the same thing with your delays. So here, you have half a second, 1 second, 1.5, and 3 second delays from the time you pull the pin and pop off that spool. We're going to just adjust it like that. Whoop, not quite all the way. Now, when we do this, if we were to activate it right now, we'd have it on setting 2 with a 3 second delay. So with the different strobe options and the different delays that you have on this, you can program it to your needs. It also has a really cool feature to where, I believe for the first half hour that you have the spool gone, after the initial burst of noise and sound, it will light and beep every so often. I think it's every 10 seconds until you relocate it. So you don't have to worry about losing this in a dark area if you use it once. And for example, let's say like you're doing like a milsim game or like an airsoft or something like that. You go in, throw it into the room, take out the bad guys. You don't have to worry about coming back in the dark and not being able to find this thing. It'll go off every so often until you are able to put the spool back on. So the nice thing is, because they do spend you 2 extra spools and 2 extra rings, you don't have to worry about breaking them. Now with that, even though these spools and rings, the rings are like kind of a thin metal, these spools are a plastic. I have used this pretty extensively, thrown it around the house, thrown it around outside, throw it around different environments trying to beat this thing up. I haven't been able to break it yet. This is also water resistant. I believe it's waterproof for a certain amount of time and a certain depth. I wouldn't necessarily start throwing it into puddles all the time. But if you're out in the rain or something like that, or in a way like a building that's maybe got some rain like coming into it or something like that, you wouldn't break this thing using it. So this thing's pretty awesome. Now, as far as uses for this, what I would actually use this for. Well, for me personally right now, I don't have any flashbangs, right? So if the time and need ever came around for me needing to do anything that would require an actual flashbang, this is probably going to be the next best thing that I'm going to use for that. Now, I think this actually has a huge training potential, especially if you are training CQB or any kind of stressful environment. If you want to induce a certain amount of stress, this is a great way to do it without actually getting anybody hurt. Also, if you're in any type of professional environment, law enforcement, military, anything like this, I think this would be a great thing to do for a training aid, because since it's simply rechargeable off a cell phone charger, you could charge this and reuse it all the time. Since you don't have to worry about pyrotechnics, you could potentially be saving some money. So I'm not 100% sure exactly how much a real flashbang costs outside of like the milsim stuff ones. But I think, again, this thing is awesome. Also, if you're kind of like me, this is also a great way to prank some of your friends. I'm not advocating that you should do that. I'm not saying that you should do that. Use this responsibly. With great power comes with great responsibility. But as you saw in the video from the intro, this thing's pretty awesome. So real quick before we go, we are going to test out all of these modes. I am going to Helen Keller myself by the time we're done with this video. So stand by, check this out, and see how well this thing works. Okay? So first thing we're going to do again, we're going to take our backup key, or really anything that fits small enough. I'm going to turn this thing on. 1, 2, hold it down for 3 seconds. It flashes blue. Okay. I've got it. I'm going to set it on mode 1. We're going to do it with the lights on because it's still going to be ridiculously bright. So again, mode 1, and we're going to set it to a half second delay so we can just fight our way through this. So again, mode 1 should be a one-time strobe and sound, right? So a one-time quick burst and loud noise. I'm going to lay this on its side. So the one thing you do have to recognize is the speaker is on the bottom. I've never seen anyone like successfully bottle throw this thing to where it lands right like that, to where then you can't really hear the speaker that well. I mean, it's still pretty loud, but I'm going to put it on its side for the full effect, and you guys get to bear it with me. So you guys get to watch me flashbang myself 4 times in a row. You're welcome, YouTube. So laying on its side, I'm going to pull the pin, pop the spool. There it is. That's really bright. So that's the one time, one sound. That's mode 1. Not super impressive. I kind of think of it more of as like a tester mode, making sure it still works. But again, still effective. Again, I'm not entirely sure exactly what mode you would use mode 1 for outside of making sure it works and it does it and it is available. But you can do that 4,400 times off a full battery, it says. So, figure that out to your heart's content. Now, mode 2 is it's going to do 2 times and 2 times in sound. And if I can still see straight by the end of this, that'll be a miracle. So, again, let's go ahead and take our thing. We're going to twist it over here to number 2. Pull the pin, pop the spool. All right. That's really freaking bright. So imagine you're like in a dark room chilling, hanging out, doing whatever, right? And instead of getting flashbang, like 2 or 3 of these roll in the room, just especially if you had more, especially if you had more than one of these, if everyone on your team had one, and you're, hanging out in a dark room or just like watching TV or something at night, hanging out in your house with the lights off, heck, even with the lights on, 3 of these bust in the room and just, that's a bad day, dude. You ain't seeing nothing. All right, we're going to switch over to mode 3. Mode 3 is going to be a little bit more intense. I would recommend in the future, if you are going to try this thing out, wear your Eye Pro, but I kind of want to feel the full effect for myself before I know what I'm doing to somebody else. I've definitely pranked enough of my friends with this thing already, so I guess this is kind of my payback to myself and my penance. So mode 3 should be 9 times strobe and sound. Hold that back. Ah, jeez. Okay. All right. Yeah, that's not, as you can see, like that's not going to be really enjoyable for anybody, especially coming out as a surprise out of the blue. And it's probably a good thing I have military-related hearing loss because that thing is freaking loud. So, mode 4 is 12-second continuous burst, strobe and sound. So boys and girls, we are in for the long haul. 12 seconds of fun, boys. That's the longest 12 seconds of my life. Oh, God. All right. Well, that, guys, is the NEXTORCH ND30. I'm going to have a link to him down below in the video. Again, they did send me this for free. This thing, I will say, though, I would 100% buy with my own money. This thing is freaking awesome. I highly recommend this thing. I've had a lot of fun with this. Also, just the training aspects of this, there's a lot to be had here and a lot of fun to have with this, as well as like from a tactical training perspective or from a professional setting. This thing would be really awesome. Yeah, also, if you ever, God forbid, had to get into a situation where a flashbang was a viable tool that you needed to use in a tactical environment, I think this would be an alternative option, especially if you are worried about the potential effects of pyrotechnics. You read a lot of times about SWAT teams throwing in flashbangs into a room and hitting a baby or something like that, which is incredibly unfortunate when those things happen. And, you think if something like this could be used, I think it would still be relatively effective from my limited experience. But also, you don't have to worry about the actual facts of a concussive explosion. You just get the light and sound of that. But that would 100% distract me. I'm probably going to need to, close my eyes for a little bit here because I'm seeing spots. But this thing 100% works. It's awesome. Check it out. Catch you on the next one.